So in, I introduce myself again. I'm Dr. Justinus Satrio. I'm an associate professor in chemical engineering at Villanova. So I will start with giving just a general preview about the life of coffee and its connection with sustainable development. So that's from the first lecture in the first class meeting. So if there is anything that you can, one slide that will summarize the topic on sustainable development, uh, I would like you to remember about this slide. And in order for us to be able to fairly, in the fair way, evaluating the sustainability, the assessment, we need to be able to assess from various perspectives, not only just one. Oftentimes, people think about from the one aspect only, but then it doesn't work that way because then we have to think from a different perspective, from social, technology, economy, environmental, and political. Okay. From about sustainability, this is what we would like you to remember, what you should know by now in your head. So based on that, is one thing that I would like you to think about is this sustainability concept, the entire thing here, can be applied to any aspects of life, including agriculture and agro-industry. So you can apply this to about education. You can apply this to about internet, for example. Okay, just remember again, is on the about in when we talk about agro-industry, the value chains are very long. There is a very complex about from the seeds, from the to get the good seeds. About a lot of studies and business have been done on that. Just think about genetic engineering, for example, and then the farming portion. Okay, and then the logistics, and then the processing. Okay, so the success of in agriculture and agro-industry, especially on sustainable one, is a sustainable agriculture or sustainable agro-industry, is dependent on the weakest link in the value chain. So we need to make sure that identify and work on what is the weakest link and how to improve that. So the goal is that we need to optimize each step of the value chains. And typically, the procurement of the feedstocks and the logistics are typically the bottlenecks. We can see that also in the coffee, in the coffee industry. So when we talk about agriculture, we can see it as a concept of what is called a system. Okay, so a system is, we can put this as, in this case, is agro-industry's a system. So outside the system will be, in thermodynamics, will be called the surroundings, the outside the system. So there is a boundary, and this boundary is flexible. How we want to evaluate the system is dependent on how you set up the boundary. So in agro-industry, in agriculture, we think about the resources. What are the resources? That is, we start as the primary resources. That is the sun. Yeah. And then we need to, for growing plants, we need water, and then we need carbon dioxide. In addition to that, those are the primary. We need to have additional input. That is what I will call it auxiliaries. That is the energy, water, and the land. Okay, and then in the system is working involved on the production, logistics, and the processing, and maybe then to produce the products. So if I think about also when we talk about sustainability, we need to be able to evaluate the performance, to quantify. So for example, in the biofuels production, we can evaluate the process performance in terms of energy utilization. For example, we can talk about process efficiency. That is how much is the biofuels that we can produce per total energy input? What is the energy cost for producing these biofuels? And when we start talking about renewability, about process sustainability, we need to know, okay, we want to minimize the non-renewable energy input. So the lesser of the non-renewable energy inputs, the better the renewability of the system. So we can think about this process performance also in evaluating agriculture in agriculture and agro industry. Okay, so we will talk about this applying this refinery process. All is this process usually I will call it this as a biorefinery. That is a process from plant production to the processing, and then including the logistics. But then the life of coffee. But I will just give an overview on the life of coffee that will including the growing, picking, and then processing from cherries to the beans, and then involve some trading, shipping, and then go to the destination, the buyer location, import, where the coffee beans will be roasted, processed, and ground, and then brew, and then consumed. Think about this life of coffee as a system, okay? So we can think about this as a system that involves growing, picking, processing, drying, roasting, grinding. So for the system to work, we have to do the processing. We need to have not only the processing on the coffee, but including the growing of the coffee and then harvesting. We need energy, water, carbon dioxide, fertilizer, and then we can also we have this coffee products, but also we have some emissions. So when we talk about sustainable agro industry, we need to think from the holistic point of view, not only from the drying or from the roasting, from the processing, but we need to see it from the production of coffee to the consumption. So as I said, that is the life of coffee, the entire steps, we can put that as a system, okay, within the system. But then, when we want to start analyzing think about addressing the issues, addressing the opportunities, we have to be able to identify for each component. Okay, so this is one component. This part is, sorry, I need to correct this. So if you think about as a biorefinery, so system for coffee production and utilization, I would like you to start thinking, okay, what are the inputs for the growing on the growing part? What are the outputs? And then on the picking and processing, what are the inputs? Maybe the cherries. And then what are the processing from that, and to get into the beans. But then you have to think about this input and output. So in your discussion with your team, I would like you to start thinking, okay, what are the inputs and outputs from its steps in the life of coffee? Okay, so in order for us to quantify, to do analysis, we need to have numbers. So the numbers that we need are energy, and then the mass. So when we talk about this evaluating the performance and sustainability in coffee production process, this is just my thinking. We think about the production efficiency, and about this related to sustainability, we think about reducing CO2 emission, and then reducing the fossil energy. So what is the total production of coffee per non-renewable energy input? When we think about from the environmental impacts, think about the life cycle analysis, think about how much CO2 emission, how much waste that is released per unit of production. So from STEEP perspective, we can also evaluate various performances based on the coffee production. So we have a number that we can quantify on that. So we talk about this mass balance. Okay, so the question is that I will try to address and think about on the mass balance, how many cups of coffee can be produced from 100 kilogram of coffee cherries. Another thing that I would like you to think about is that relate that to the social aspect. I choose a coffee picker. From coffee cherries, usually about 20% end up as dried coffee beans. Okay, so another information also is typically, let's see, yeah. So is when we do the roasting, roasting a dried coffee beans typically results in approximately 20% weight loss of the beans. So from 100 kilograms of the cherries, how many cups that can be produced? Okay, so 100 kilograms, it will produce about 20 kilograms of dried, and we have 16 kilograms of roasted coffee. And then when 1 kilograms produce between 70 to 140. Okay, so someone can help me with this. So this is the number of cup of coffees that will be produced from 100 kilograms of cherries. Okay, so the question is that what is the purpose of this? What is the why we need to do mass balance? Okay, so an example is that we can start thinking from the perspective of economy. So from 100 kilograms of coffee, you will produce about 120 to 200, 2,240 cups of coffee. Okay, the question is that why this number matters. Okay, so I would like to address a little bit talking about this the coffee beans, coffee production. One thing is that the uniqueness of coffee, and maybe also we talk about chocolate, is later on or tea. All this of these products, they are produced typically in the warm climate, in tropical. Okay. Then is the consumers. They are mostly in North America, and then in Europe. So these are the consumers.
Wow.
So from here, what is clear is that there are two different types of, I will call it maybe two different types of economy, two different types of societies, two different types of environment. Okay, so here is mostly in the coffee producers. They are mostly of developing nations, poorer, that is less developed nations, while the consumers are mostly in the developed nation. So the export. So these coffee beans are the biggest exporting countries are Brazil, also Indonesia. This is about the consumption. Okay, so the world consumption is mainly, you can see here is the total about 100. It will keep increasing. So the total they estimate from 2016 to 2020, this is about 2.1%. These are about the importing nations. So one issue that I would like to address is about the inequality in revenues between growers and buyers. So in the coffee industry, from agriculture to coffee consumption, the most revenues is generated by the consumers. So why this number matters again? So this is the revenues from coffee industry by countries. As I said, that United States is the largest. Brazil, because it's the largest producer, is number 2. Most of these countries who benefit the most in coffee industries are the countries who that are only using coffee. I make assumption that is assuming that the price of coffee beans is $2 per dried coffee bean. So assuming that from 1 kilogram, the maximum price of coffee cherries, then based on this 1 kilograms of coffee cherries produce a 1 kilogram of dried coffee beans. So it will be the price of the coffee cherries will be about 40 cents. Okay. So we go back to the how much is the coffee picker can get the money from this coffee business. So if we assume a picker can harvest about 50 to 100 kilograms of coffee cherries, so the values of the cherries per picker will be about between $40 and $80. Okay. So if assuming is the 75% of this $40 to $80 goes to the growers, and then 25% goes to the pickers, maybe much less. The coffee picker, on the average, will earn about between $10 to $20 per day. So now about this coffee, the coffee users. So assuming that 1 kilogram from 1 kilogram of roasted beans, a coffee shop can sell 7 to 140 cups of coffee. Assuming that this price of the coffee is $1 per cup, from 1 kilogram of roasted beans, a coffee shop will make about between $70 to $140. So there is a big difference between this the money that is the coffee roaster will make, coffee pickers will make per day, compared to the just a coffee shop just from 1 kilograms of coffee. So my point on this is that then if from 1 cup of coffee, then assuming that per cup of coffee, we use 10 grams, okay? So when assuming that this is also, that is just as the same, so from 10 grams of coffee, the price of this coffee of coffee beans is $2 per kilograms. It means that it will be the cost of from the coffee beans is 20 cents. Okay, so $1 cup of coffee, the cost from the coffee is 20 cents. That is for this 10 grams. Okay, so from this 10 grams of the coffee beans, it will make about it will need about 50 grams of cherries. Okay, so is the price of cherries is 40 cents per kilograms. Okay, so it means that the amount of money that is for 1 cup of coffee, it will be 2 cents. Okay, so assuming that this is 25% goes to picker. Okay, so for 1 cup of coffee, the picker will get about this half cents per cup of coffee. Okay, so that is some kind of the inequality that I'm talking about. So what I would like to address is that in coffee industry, we need to start thinking about the on sustainability. We need to think about the mass and energy balance of this energy on the coffee processing, from growing to consumption. And using the data, we can relate those information to various things. For example, on this case is about the economy part. Okay, so when you drink about coffee, think about that. My thought about this assignment from my talk is about thinking about how to relate the love of the life of coffee with this sustainability concept. So that will be the end of my talk. And is there any question?